I think what I'm going to go with instead is that most AI models are developed in the US and China. And so some of these models are probably optimized to solve problems and challenges in the countries where they've been designed and where the data set comes from. And so I think that for third world countries, although we thought that originally AI was going to develop education, and I still think it will help develop education because it's a low cost, personalized tutor that any student with the internet around the world can use. But I also think that because the knowledge is not optimized for their country, they will not gain as much benefit as we do in the US, China, Europe. So I think that this is a hurdle that we still need to address as a society.
Yeah,
and then
I think that's a great point. Well, firstly, just on that, I think that's a really important point. And I think whereas most of the data that the AI is trained on generated the West and China, and maybe the rest of Asia a little bit. For example, you don't get hardly any of the data that it comes from is from rural Africa or, villages in South America. So now you're right there that when we said bias before, I think there's huge bias in that sense because all of those people that are writing the text that trains these AIs are from completely different places to where they might be applied. But maybe this is a whole nother episode topic, AI and bias, I think.
Yeah, it is a very broad topic if we start diving.
I think that's a great idea for an episode though, by the way.
Yeah, we can keep it in the drawer for next
time. Let's go. You do a good one maybe.
And then, my positive is the mental strain. You talked about the mental drain. I think about that AI is actually helping us with the mental strain, which means to me personally that there's a lot of tasks that are time consuming and they would definitely take a lot of cognitive, or did you already say that? The cognitive, but I wanted to put it in a positive spin.
Yeah, I mentioned the negative side of cognitive offloading, but maybe you could do the positive side of it.
Okay. Yeah. So for me was the mental straining of doing repetitive tasks that needs to be done in a meticulous way. Perhaps when you're moving, codes from one file, from one folder to another, or when you're, debugging something, or when you need to commit and push your codes and you need to write a description or you need to comment your code. These are tasks that take forever. I feel exhausted at the end of each one of them. And with AI, they get done in a fraction of the time. And so I feel like now I save a lot of energy from the useless tasks that I can now use and redeploy on more meaningful tasks. So I feel like I can now shift my energy to the most important tasks of my research.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a real enabler. Like I say, maybe I should learn to code, but I realistically would never. I've got such a low head start on this, or such a bad start on this, that for me to be able to code some of the apps that I make with these agentic coding agents is just literally impossible, I think. So it's a massive enabler of so much great tools and great science that I think, we're talking about a lot of these quite future-flung negative outcomes, but actually it's really enabling people to do a lot of interesting stuff. Every single biologist is now a bioinformatician if they want to be,
Yeah.
And that's really powerful.
And even when you talk about building apps, even if you say you feel like you're behind, but you don't need to build the actual app from scratch and you don't need to know the programming language. You just need to learn now the structure of the app, where the database sits and where the login page comes in and how the different buttons are connected. If you understand the structure of the app, now you're able to develop it through the help of agentic coding.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, I would never be able to do it myself. Now I can.